All right, the special meeting of the Board of Trustees of Seguin ISD, being held December 11th, 2024, beginning at 6:30 p.m. Call this meeting to order. Do you have a quorum? This meeting of the Seguin Independent School District has been duly called, and notice of this meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act Section 551.043 of the Texas Government Code. We move on to the pledges to the United States and Texas flag, followed by a moment of silence.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. On the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to the Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
All right, moving on to number 2, audience with the board. The Seguin ISD Board of Trustees designates a time for audience participation at the beginning of each meeting to hear persons who desire to make comments in accordance with board policy BED local. Those wishing to speak signed up before the meeting, stating their concern and noting the agenda item they wish to address. Audience participation is limited to 5 minutes. The board shall not deliberate any subject that is not on the posted agenda. We have 2 speakers tonight. The first is Levi Robertson.
Test.
Yes, it works. Mr. Robertson, Mr. Bright there will be your time for you guys.
Whoever. Yeah, I didn't prepare a speech tonight, so we might have to hold me 5 minutes. But I just wanted to come in today because I appreciate you all hearing me out last time. It's more of a positive tone. I'm not saying that the problems still aren't here. I think that's why there's a meeting tonight, and I appreciate you all meeting next week to address the bullying because it really is extended to assault and other severe issues that are not just happening within the district but our community. So I wanted to thank you. Had approached me, but we didn't get to have a conversation with Duncan. And Mr. Dwyer, I really appreciate you coming and talking to me at the last board meeting. And you had said hello, and you came and spoke to me. And I had the opportunity with Dr. Behill today and Ms. Biddings, who's unfortunately leaving the district, but wish her the best. And was able to meet with Donna Dodgen with the city and Mr. Parker. They're both excited about what's happening and that we're, as a community, looking into this broader issue because it really starts with everyone, not just within people within the district. We were able to meet, or I was able to meet with Mr. Trevino with the school district to address some things that I felt weren't appropriate to bring public at this time. And I really feel excited that he's with the district, and I think that some positive things will happen with whatever investigations might come from that. And this has sort of turned into a Safe in Seguin, not just an accountability group, but Safe in Seguin to see how can we make people in the community accountable, not just those within the district. I'm someone that I will always bring up things that might be challenging and that we don't want to hear. And when I moved to the community, I found that posting those online, I should have known, right? But posting those online, you get a barrage of opinions, and sometimes those go negative. And I've seen the worst of Seguin, but there's also some really great in Seguin. And I think these conversations we're having is what's showing what is good in Seguin. And I just want you all to be receptive and know that not everybody's here to attack you. That doesn't mean that the problems aren't there, and there are people that are causing problems. It's just please keep your ears open. When you get 5 minutes, especially that first time, I had to go in there and tell you what the frustration was about. But I'm very excited to hear people listening. But just don't mistake that for sweeping it under the rug. But I'm excited about the conversations that we're having, and I think that we can address this if we just keep staying on top of it and listening to people. And I think more people will come out and share things that are happening that they were scared or intimidated to say before. And I just hope to see more positivity coming out of this, and more students standing up, not being scared to speak up about things that maybe they feel their teachers or principals are not putting into a broader light to administration or to the Board of Trustees. So thank you, and you'll probably hear from me again next week, but I just want to take the opportunity to be here tonight. So thank you all.
Thank you. Now we have Addison Owens. Sorry, I didn't read the topic the first time. This time is late.
Hi, my name is Addison Owens. I'm 13 years old and I'm an 8th grader at AJB. I've attended Seguin ISD pretty much my whole life. And it's pretty sad to say mental health and kindness is one of the topics I believe is getting swept under the rug. You teach us and reassure us that teachers are here for us, but that's not the case. Some of our supposed role models are quite frankly bullying the kids. Multiple reports have been done, yet not one thing has actually been done. You have us promoting kindness and anti-bullying with all kinds of things, but clearly it's not working, so we need to try other stuff. You were also wrapped up in preparing us for end of the year tests, the clothes we wear when we go to learn, and the way we act at school. But you forgot something important, our mental health. Inside of your school walls, I experience bullying every day, whether it be verbal or physical. The thing is, it's not just me, but it's a lot of us experiencing this. I can't even tell you how many times I have tried reaching out for help. Each one ignored, almost even shushed. I don't know about everyone else, but I want to get all of this bullying stuff restored out before I go to high school, because I already know it's going to be twice, if not triple as bad as it is right now. If we need to start something like taking one of the periods and changing it into a mental health period, then that's what needs to happen in my opinion. If I'm being prompted to say the words, AGB is the place to be, I don't think I should dread saying it. Let us come together and fix this before it gets too bad. We simply want to be heard and taken seriously.
Thank you, Addison. We'll move on to section 3. Board will adjourn to closed session pursuant to the following section of the Texas Open Meetings Act. I move that we move number 2 in section A to be heard first, since it's an open session.
Second.
The motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. The motion passes 7-0. This grievance will be heard in closed session pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.074, grievance hearing of Cunningham. The superintendent, as the officer who is the subject of the deliberation, has elected to hold this in open session. This grievance is being conducted under Board Policy GF Local. This is a stop, look, and listen presentation. The board will listen impartially to a presentation by the grievant. The grievant will have 10 minutes to address the board. The representative of the administration will then have 10 minutes to address the board. Board members only will have the opportunity to ask questions of the grievant, the administration's representative, and of staff members. Following questions by the board, the grievant will have 2 minutes to make a closing statement. The administration will have the same. I understand that the administration will be represented by Emily Boney, along with Mr. Trevino. Will the staff members in the room that are here to respond to questions from the board regarding this matter please state your name and position?
Ms. Ware?
Thank you.
Yes. Can you repeat that?
Will the staff members in the room that are here to respond to questions from the board regarding this matter please state your name and position?
That's you. We want you to state your name and position.
Tiffany Cunningham, English teacher.
Veronica McKee, Superintendent.
Well, Trevino, Chief Human Resources Officer.
The grievant may begin when you're ready. We can give you a 2 more minute warning if you like.
Wherever you're from.
Let me know when time starts.
I spent the last 2.5 years teaching at-risk youth about the power of words. Today I stand before you to use those same tools of rhetoric to persuade you of a simple but critical truth. On October 31st, 2024, Dr. Veronica Vahill visited my classroom unannounced and used her position of power to intimidate me into silence. This was retaliation for speaking at the October school board meeting. While Dr. Vahill and her representative may argue otherwise, perhaps claiming her visit had no ill intentions or calling my credibility into question, the reality is clear. When authority is abused, it often points to deeper systemic flaws that need addressing. Flaws that I tried to bring to light at the school board meeting. So why should you trust me? I understand the weight of asking you for your trust. I'm not originally from Seguin, but I do come from a city much like it, sharing similar socioeconomic and demographic challenges. Growing up, I felt powerless, as many of our students do. My parents were abusive in every single way imaginable before abandoning me and my siblings. By my freshman year of high school, I legally had no guardian, yet my school never even noticed. Despite my hardships, school became my solace, a safe haven in a world of chaos. Very few of my experiences with authority were positive. Most adults were power hungry, and I learned to navigate their egos to survive. Thankfully, a few of my mentors, my softball coach and junior ROTC instructor, saw through my struggles and made a lasting impact. As an Air Force veteran, I learned about power, its abuses, and the art of diplomacy. These lessons shaped me into a better mother to my 2 sons, who are now high school seniors, and a better teacher. My professional journey, from working as a correctional officer at a maximum security Texas prison to teaching at-risk youth at Gary Job Corps, has taught me the value of empathy, advocacy, and creating safe environments for individuals to reach their full potential. I chose teaching because I felt a deep obligation to my younger self and to future generations. I aim to empower students to advocate for themselves, as evidenced by my efforts to create safe and inclusive spaces. I'm not perfect, nor do I claim to be the world's best teacher. In fact, I'm not even a Texas certified teacher. But I do genuinely try every single day to be the teacher that my students deserve, knowing that they deserve the best. My commitment to integrity compels me to speak out against injustice, even when it comes at a personal cost. To further support my credibility, consider the words of my administrators. Dr. Cristobal Saldana praised my welcoming environment where students take initiative of their own learning. Ms. Christine Perez stated, there is a culture of belonging in the classroom. Students honor the leadership provided by Mrs. Cunningham, interact with her respectfully, and follow her directives. Thank you for creating a safe space where all students are valued and heard. And thank you for being a staunch advocate for our students. These testimonials illustrate my commitment to creating a safe and inclusive learning space. I'm not a disgruntled employee. Rather, I'm a passionate advocate for my students and their success. So why should you care? Since my October testimony, I have repeatedly heard some district leaders deflect accountability for the tragic losses of Brooklyn, Malik, and the attempted suicide on campus. While no one can fully understand their final thoughts, I do know this. Less than 24 hours before taking his life, Malik confided in me that he felt he would never be good enough for his teachers. Tragically, Malik's story is not an isolated event. It reflects a larger pattern of students feeling unsupported, a sentiment echoed by many others. At the end of the day, pointing fingers will not bring my students back. But it's extremely important to note that this highlights a systemic issue that demands investigation for the students who do remain at our schools. Ignoring it only allows the problem to fester, with devastating consequences for both students and staff. Silencing those who refuse to ignore the problem only exacerbates the issue, creating a culture where fear and complacency overshadow accountability and progress. By silencing those who advocate for change, we fail not only our students, but also our responsibility as educators and leaders. Addressing these systemic issues requires courage, transparency, and a commitment to ensuring that every student feels valued, supported, and safe within our schools. So here are the facts. On October 31st, 2024, Dr. Vahil visit to my classroom met every criterion of bullying as defined by the Texas School Safety Center. It was a significant act exploiting the imbalance of power through verbal intimidation. The act disrupted my ability to focus on teaching and created a threatening environment. According to state law and district policies, intentions do not exempt actions from being classified as bullying. Dr. Vahil's actions meet these criteria through her unannounced visit and verbal threats. These are the standards that we hold our students to. Shouldn't our superintendent be held to the same standard or higher? Additionally, her actions violated district policies on retaliation. Board policy DGBA explicitly prohibits retaliation against employees for bringing concerns to the board. Policy DIA outlines retaliation to include threats, intimidation, and coercion. Precisely what happened during her visit. I do not have time to read this signed statement that details the entire conversation, but I would like to give a few examples. At the beginning of the meeting, she told me, you only have a few more months until the end of the school year, unless there are extenuating circumstances. This comment felt ambiguous and threatening, leaving me questioning her intent. Was she implying, unless you continue speaking out, unless you attend another school board meeting, unless you provide evidence to support your claims? Her choice of words and the imbalance of power between us made her intentions feel intimidating rather than supportive. She also dismissed my concerns about systemic issues and the emotional toll of advocating for students, saying, you're only one person, so you need to give yourself grace. When asked about other issues, I expressed my disappointment in the district's handling of recent student suicides. I explained that pretending nothing happened only deepened the wounds for students. But she countered, I'd like to challenge that statement, but because from my perspective, I feel like we faced it head on. I informed her that many students feel like the school is pretending like everything is normal. And if they can't pretend, they're told to go cry in the library. She insisted that wasn't the intention. Despite her insistence, I emphasized that intentions are not magic and that the real harm remains. I'd like to note that a week after our conversation, 1 week after our conversation, a student on campus tried to commit suicide. By the end of the meeting, Dr. Cahill asked if I could get on her team so we could work together to make some changes, but reiterated that change takes time and might never be seen during my employment. Her repeated rhetoric, coupled with the circumstances of her visit, reinforced a sense of coercion rather than collaboration. The context and timing of her visit, combined with her behavior, demonstrate clear intent to intimidate rather than support. This pattern of retaliation was further demonstrated when the district publicly posted my name on the board agenda, which was shared on social media, identifying me as the individual who filed the grievance. Publicly disclosing my identity in this matter serves no legitimate purpose and undermines the confidentiality and fairness that grievance procedures are supposed to uphold. Such actions deter others from speaking out, creating an extremely chilling effect for employees and reinforce the systemic flaws that I've tried to bring to light.
1 minute.
In conclusion, I do not stand here today to seek personal gain or to escalate this issue any further after you've made your decision tonight. My goal is to shed light on areas that demand improvement, to protect others who may be too afraid to speak up because of situations just like this, and to advocate for systemic accountability. I respectfully request that the district issue a formal reprimand to Dr. Cahill for her actions on October 31st. This is not a request for punitive measures, but rather an essential step toward ensuring accountability, preventing future incidences, and fostering a culture of professionalism and support within our district. Our students, staff, and community deserve leaders who model the highest ethical standards and a safe space to voice their concerns without the fear of retaliation. The decision now lies in your hands. But I do want to remind you, our students are watching.
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation. The administration will now have 10 minutes to present. You may begin when you're ready. We can give you a 2-minute warning if you wish.
Good evening, Board President, Board members, attendees. Just want to go ahead and let you know that I received a grievance from Ms. Cunningham on November 15th. On November 18th, I went ahead and requested statements from both Ms. Cunningham and Dr. Vigil. I received both soon thereafter. Thank you.
Board of Trustees, I'm going to summarize the statement that was submitted to Mr. Trevino. Is my recollection of the conversation that took place on October the 31st with Ms. Cunningham. I did ask Mr. Steve Gonzalez to determine when Ms. Cunningham's conference period was, so that I could approach her in the time that she had conference. And so when I approached her, I asked her if we could have a conversation. And so she said yes. We went into her classroom, and the door remained open. She sat toward the hallway, could see people that were passing by. I had my back to the door, so I don't know who was passing by. The class change took place at around 10:10, and that's when we had our conversation. I did open the conversation by asking if she was okay. I explained that my primary purpose was to check on her. I opened with that. We talked about a number of things. I don't remember the order. I did mention that I was not going to take notes. I just wanted to give her my attention. We did speak about some students who felt targeted with dress code. I spoke to her about my experiences with dress code as a principal, and she said that there was one teacher in particular that she heard from a lot of students that there were problems with dress code. So I asked her for the name of that person, and she did give it to me. That was the only time that I picked up my phone to put the name in the phone so that I wouldn't forget, and that I would be sure to follow up with the principal. I did offer my phone number to her at the end of the conversation. I did want to express that I was there in support. Again, primarily making sure that she was okay. Obviously, the school district has sustained some horrible deaths this semester. And in trying to reach out, perhaps there was a misinterpretation of my visit with her to the classroom. I actually went back and forth in my mind about should I reach out and ask her to come to my office, or can I go visit her? And I actually erred on not doing that because I didn't want to heighten any anxiety. And so instead went to her classroom to visit with her. We talked about different things. I asked for clarification about the P3 statement, which she said was leaked and wasn't confidential. She said that she couldn't talk about which student it was. I asked her to please let me know. Once she asked the student again, that would help me to kind of see who had received the P3 that she had talked about. I did visit with Ms. Biddings, and I let her know about our conversation and what the concern was about P3 statements. She explained to me, Ms. Biddings did, that depending on the nature of the P3, it goes to different people. We talked about the P3s today when Mr. Levi was at the administration building, and so we actually talked about ways that we could strengthen that system. We're always working to strengthen the systems that we have. Of course, we all felt the sadness that has taken place this semester, and certainly there are ways that different people grieve. There's just different ways of grieving, and I understand that. My intention has always been and continues to be to support our students and our staff and our families, and that was my intention that day. Thank you.
Thank you. Any board members have questions?
I have some questions. Ms. Cunningham, I have questions for you. You were talking about the posted agenda. Are you talking about referring to tonight's meeting?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I do believe that's by law, right? Do we post the agenda items the way we did, or is that up to us?
It's up to us.
Okay. All right. Well, that's definitely noted. Thank you for bringing that up. And then also,
Can I just respond to that?
Absolutely.
I did go back last night and looked at up to 2021, and I didn't see any employee grievances, but I did see level 3 parent grievances, and their names were never mentioned.
Yes. Thank you.
Can the district speak to that? as to why the decision was made to use their names?
Chris is on order. Just so everybody knows, this is Chris Schultz. He's the attorney for the board. Just so you guys know, all the players.
There was not any, certainly not any intent to shame anybody or intimidate anybody. The grievances are not confidential documents. It's not necessarily a confidential process. It's a way to differentiate the grievances that the board is hearing tonight. I think there's a different way that parent grievances get held because of confidentiality, but I know practices in other districts that we represent that grievances have been named specifically by the employee that filed it. And there's certainly no ill intent in doing that.
But we don't have to either.
We don't have to either.
Right, cool.
But I, I certainly did not
Yeah.
consider that it was
Right.
that would be offensive to anyone.
And Ms. Cunningham, you mentioned in your statement about district accountability for the suicides that happened within our community. What, in your opinion, what would that look like?
I was specifically talking about in conversations when discussing what could be done. Specifically, those conversations start off with, we don't want to play the blame game. So let's set all blame aside. And anytime someone tried to bring concerns, legitimate concerns up, we were reminded not to place blame and that we're just here for solutions. And so that's what I'm referencing, is that when people are trying to bring legitimate concerns to the table, there's deflection that happens every single time.
Because I'm not in the school every day, and I see things and hear things from my students that are there, but not at the high school. Like, can you give me an example of what a legitimate concern would be for prevention of suicide?
I can tell you that specifically one of the times that it was discussed was the day that the student attempted suicide on campus when she stood on the ledge. And one of the staff members brought to light that there was a student who was a friend of that student that was brought out to try to talk her off the ledge. And then she was sent back into the cafeteria after everything was said and done, and was just expected to kind of go back to class afterwards.
With like no follow-up
Right.
counseling, kind of like what we
And
talked about with like follow-up to like people who were bullied.
Right.
We don't really like, once that problem has been identified, then we put some steps in place to prevent the bullying from happening, but we don't go back and check on that, the victim of the bullying.
Right. And so when that was brought to
I
light.
know that we're working on that.
Okay. So when that was brought to light, the response was, well, we're doing the best that we can. Can we just focus on some solutions? And so that's what I mean by there's just been a lot of deflection when people try to bring legitimate concerns up that should be addressed.
Thank you.
I have a question for Ms. Cunningham. Did you receive any communication from either Dr. B. Hill or someone else in a leadership position after your meeting on October 31st to kind of address some of the issues you talked about? Because you did not file your grievance for 2 weeks after that meeting, correct?
Correct.
Okay. But between that time frame, do you have any kind of follow-up?
No.
Thank you.
I just have a quick comment. But Dr. He did provide her personal phone number,
Yes.
so you could reach out to her.
Yes, she did.
As there are no further questions, the grievant will now have 2 minutes to make a final statement. You may proceed when you're ready.
Would you like me to let you know when you're at 1? That'd be great. Thank you very much. You're welcome.
Mr. President, I'm sorry. I late reading through my notes and I missed one. I have a question for Dr. Vio. I'm sorry. Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
No, absolutely.
Thank you. My apologies. Dr. Vigil, when you went to go speak with Ms. Cunningham, did you think about taking somebody else with you at all? Like maybe a counselor from the school, not necessarily another administrator because of, we're talking about intimidation and stuff, but just like another person, another teacher, something to go with you?
I really didn't, no. My purpose was, as I said, primarily to go check on her, follow up.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Sorry.
Okay, now.
I do want to say that there's a very large part of me that most certainly believes that Dr. Vigil had good intentions. My issue is that her words did not match those intentions. That's my issue. Is that there is a major disconnect that's happening. That I feel like that's a fantastic question. Is if you genuinely are coming to check on me and make sure that I'm doing okay, then why not bring another person? Why not send an email and say, do you mind if I come and check on you during your conference period? Instead of just showing up while I'm dressed as the Trunchbull on Halloween. Do you see how that power imbalance most certainly makes somebody feel like this is most certainly an act of intimidation as opposed to I'm here to check on you, I care. When every time we had tried to have a conversation, there was absolute pushback. There was a comment that made me go, there's so much behind all of this. And so were there good intentions? I'm sure that on the surface, those good intentions are there. Do I feel like more than anything, she's trying to protect her job? Absolutely. I have nothing to lose, guys. I'm not certified in the state of Texas. I was looking for a job when I found this one. I'll find another one, I promise you. I can walk away. I know that she has a lot more skin in the game, so I understand that she most certainly needs this job to work. I'm not in that position. And so that extreme power imbalance, most certainly, I hope that you can see how that would make somebody feel. And I most certainly cannot stay quiet when there is an injustice. I'm sorry.
The administration will now have 2 minutes to make a final statement.
You choose to defer this time.
Thank you. Okay, this concludes this presentation. And we'll be moving on to the next grievance hearing, which is Jason Rice. And this grievance will be heard in closed session pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.074.
If they want to discuss it now. Order the agenda. Discuss it now.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to move to amend the agenda so that we can go to executive session to discuss the level 3 employee complaint from Ms. Cunningham.
The motion's been made, I'll second.
The motion was made by Mr. Bright, seconded by Mrs. Burns. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. The motion passes 7-0. We will move to executive session. Okay, moving into open session.
Madam President, I move to amend the agenda and take immediate action on item 5C in response to the level 3 employee complaint from T. Cunningham.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, the motion was made by Mr. Bright and seconded by Ms. Duncan. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
That's right.
All in favor? Motion passes 7-0.
I move to grant the relief sought by employee T. Cunningham.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, I have a motion made by Ms. Burns, seconded by Ms. Duncan. Discussion.
It does not say discussion.
All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Motion passes 4-3.
I'd just like to make a comment on, it's still my strong belief that there was no ill intent in the conversations that were had between both Dr. Lee Healy and Ms. Cunningham. That's one of the reasons why I voted against it.
All right, so now we're moving on to 3A. 1. Grievance hearing of Jason Rice. This grievance will be heard in closed session pursuant to Texas Government Code 551.074.
Yeah, recess.
Sorry. We're going to take a 5-minute recess and then continue. Forgot about that part. All right. Grievance hearing of Jason Rice. This grievance will be heard in closed session pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.074. This grievance is being conducted under Board Policy GGBA Local. Closed session.
All right, Madam President, I move to amend the agenda
There's
to...
already moved.
Oh, she did? Oh, second. Second.
All in favor? We will go into executive session at 8:47.
I make a motion to change the order from, what was it?
Take immediate action on 5B1.
On 5B.
5B1.
The order is by B1.
Madam President, I move to adjust the agenda to move to Section 5, Item B1, the possible action on grievance number 1 from Jay Rice.
Second.
That motion has been made by Mr. Dwyer and seconded by Ms. Duncan. All in favor, raise your right hand. Motion passes 7-0.
Madam President, I move to deny the relief sought by employee Jay Rice for option 1, grievance 1.
Second.
The motion has been made by Mr. Guerra, seconded by Mr. Dwyer, to deny the remedy sought in grievance 1. All in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed?
Madam President, I move to modify the level 3 remedy to include a directive will be issued to Ms. Perez to send a follow-up communication to all staff. This communication will list the available participation options for the semester, underscoring the flexibility and fulfilling engagement expectations, supporting a commitment to an inclusive, adaptable environment via email to staff, including Board of Trustees.
Do you have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 7-0. We are moving on to closed session. Section A, 1, grievance 2, which is letter B. This grievance will be heard in closed session pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.074. This grievance is being conducted under Board Policy DGBA Local. This is a stop, look, and listen presentation. The board will now adjourn to an executive session pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.074. We'll take a 5-minute recess before the executive session. So reconvene into open session. I'll entertain a motion to move on to 5B.
So moved.
2.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
All right, the motion was made by Ms. Duncan, seconded by Mrs. Burns. All in favor? Raise your right hand. Motion passes 7-0.
Madam President, I move to grant the relief sought by employee Jay Rice as stated in level 1 grievance restoring first period planning period with a contingency if construction principals exceeds the enrollment of 40 students, you will return to co-teaching.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, that was a motion made by Mr. Bright, seconded by Ms. Duncan. All in favor, raise your right hand. Against? Motion passes 7-0. All right, we move on into closed session. Section A, 1C, grievance 3. Grievance hearing of Jason Rice. This grievance will be heard in closed session pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.074. This grievance is being conducted under Board Policy GD. All right, the board will now adjourn into executive session pursuant to Texas Government Code Sections 551.071 and 551.074. The time is 11:24 p.m. Call us back into open session at 12:06 a.m. for action on Section 5B3, Grievance 3. Have a motion.
Madam President, I move to grant and amend the remedy sought by employee Jay Rice to say that we recommend specific training for school administration to include responding to calls for an administrator as an urgent task.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
The motion was made by Mr. Dwyer and seconded by Ms. Miller. All in favor? Raise your right hand. All opposed? The motion carries 5-2. Do I have any other motions?
Madam President, I move to grant the relief sought by Jay Rice to include a written reprimand for Ms. Perez preventing an administrator to responding for a call for assistance.
Have a motion, do I hear a second?
I'll second.
All right, the motion's been made by Mr. Bright, seconded by Mrs. Burns. All in favor, raise your right hand. The motion fails, 5-2. Moving on to section 5D, discussion and possible action on the termination of a Chapter 21 probationary contract employee decision by the board on November 19th. Have a motion.
Madam President, I move to rescind the termination of Chapter 21 probationary contract employee decision made by the board on November 19, 2024.
Second.
All right, the motion's been made by Mr. Guerra and seconded by Ms. Duncan. Is there any discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed? The motion passes 5-2. Moving on to 6. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
I'll second.
The motion's been made by Mr. Bright, seconded by Mrs. Burns. All in favor, raise your right hand. Motion passes 7-0. This meeting is adjourned.